Greetings to all my wonderful Patreons, I'm Blazing Knight and welcome to another one of my discussion videos. This time we're talking about RWBY Volume 5 because the series has just recently come to a close, or Series 5 if you will. And I'm here to give my thoughts on what I thought as a whole it took up in regards towards RWBY's, like this season, how it compares to the others, what I liked, what I didn't like, and my initial thoughts, and my just general thoughts. First things first. My history of RWBY is kind of funny because I know the series has been going on for quite a while and it's definitely got, it's got one hell of a reputation. But I only recently started watching it summer last year. That's when I started watching RWBY, and I do love the series. I've been really enjoying it and I'd love to see how it has evolved and turned into what it is now. So, in regards to Season 5, overall, I thought it was good. Just, it was good. I don't think any season of RWBY is bad, I think it's stronger than the first two seasons, but that's more to do with the fact that the first two seasons were trying to figure things out and were held back by, production limitations, and, it was a different type of tone because you had a different creator at the time. It's not as good as seasons 3 or 4, to be fair, those were really good seasons. I don't know if anything's going to top season 3, which is my favorite season at the moment. This one was good, it was more of it felt like more of just a recovery type arc rather than anything big or progressive, because the first two seasons of RWBY were just kind of finding its feet and stuff like that, establishing everything and giving characters what to do. Season 3 really took things to a new level, especially by the end, and season 4 is where, it branched out, the characters were at a low point, but it really branched out and really started off the whole journey thing. Season 5 is just kind of slow and just kind of more about everyone recovering from the end of Season 3 and all that's happened in Season 4. Because Season 4 was a low point, and by the end they were all ready to, it was still some people Yang and Weiss were ready to move forward, but Blake and RWBY was still in pretty low places. So this one is more of a recovery arc, and for what it is, I think it done its job well, because so much happened that they had to really take their time to make it feel like the characters have recovered, because again, that end to season 3 just kind of took, just turned everything on its head. It's fuck, you need 2 seasons to recover from that. I will say though, the recovery, it's not so much, and this is one of my benefits and problems of the series. Certain characters I felt really benefited from this series, whereas others were next to either really didn't do much or next to pointless. Yang, Blake, and John, I think were the ones who really, John towards the end, but Yang and Blake were the ones who really evolved to me in this series, because Yang had, after losing her arm and stuff like that, I'm assuming everyone knows all that happened. After losing her arm, having sat most of Season 4 out, now she's going back to the way she was. But it's about her confronting her mother and also learning to be more responsible, not just let her temper get the best of everything. And I think this season really did show that, because she was a more mature character. I mean, she had her moments and stuff like that, but she was overall just, she learned to grow up and take things more seriously, because Yang is my favorite because I like how much of a hothead she is, but this one really showed that, now it's time for her to just be there for RWBY and not be so much out for herself and out for the excitement, there's real shit going down. Blake especially, now out of the main 4, Blake is my least favorite. I still like her a lot, she has the most drama and stuff. Blake especially benefited from this season because this is where she really, she came full circle, if you ask me. Because I feel with the characters, Yang still has a bit to go. I reckon she hasn't come full circle yet until she actually properly confronts Raven. A proper fight, maybe beats her and stuff like that. Or, she's getting there, but I don't think she's come full circle yet. I think, I'm not sure about RWBY, because I don't think there was, RWBY's very likable and I love her. I just don't know if there was much of an arc with RWBY. Weiss has had hers, and, it's been done great. So I reckon Weiss is just, it was all good. Blake has now reached that point because we all know Blake was very much, she was an outcast, she liked to be alone, she pushed people away and she ran away. But here, now she, you saw in the end, she was the one leading the Faunus to stop Adam. She didn't run away again, she came back to help. And, she does rely on people. So I think now Blake has come full circle. And it's great to see that. And her confront and defeat Adam. So I think it's great to see how far Blake's character has come, because she had the most baggage, and I think that's why, to me, she was the least likable. I liked her, don't get me wrong, but she was the least likable just because she had so much baggage, but now that baggage, you know, she has other people to help her with it, so I really like that. As for Jean, his was more towards the end, where, because when Cinder turned up, I was watching, I was like, yeah, Jean, I know you want to kill her, and I hope you do. In the end, it was Raven, but what are you going to do? But, you know, you could tell he was so angry and upset. And to be fair, who wouldn't be? I cried at the end of season 3. But I like that he did, by the end, unlock his semblance. And it does make a lot of sense what it is. Because at first we thought it was healing, but then it was, no, it's just aura amplification. So that makes a lot of sense, considering Jean is the type of person who's more of a tactician, and he helps people rather than being at the front and center of a fight. Which is really cool, because now he can do that further. Like, he can amplify, like, Yang's or Blake's or, you know, Nora's, and stuff like that, semblance and stuff like that. So he's more of an assist type person, but that makes the most sense for him as a character. He's always been like that. He's not a fighter. He's, you know, he's a strategist. If he fights and he's a strategist, that make him Robin. Good lord. Jean is Robin, and Priya was pretty much Cordelia. God bless you. I feel so bad every time I talk about her. So yeah, other characters, it was just kind of like they were there. You know, Weiss had her moments. RWBY didn't do much. Crow had bits and pieces. But aside from that, yeah, I mean, it was cool to see more of Raven and stuff like that. But yeah, not many characters did much this season. And I felt that's one of the things that kind of sucks, because one thing I always liked about RWBY is that every character felt like they were doing something. Season 4 especially, like, you know, I think every character had a bit to do, whereas this one, it was a very select few, but what they did with the select few, I think they did really well. The season itself, it was generally quite mellow. Like, a lot of it wasn't that action-packed, it wasn't very exciting, it was kind of slow, and it was more just the characters sitting around talking, which I don't have a problem with, because when something that's happened, like, with such drama going on, you need to sit down and talk. But I felt like, generally, it was a very mellow series, but it did have some very strong highlights. Like, the start was pretty cool, the end was great. I think that's probably my second favorite finale in RWBY. My favorite's still season 3 just because of everything that happened, but that one was really great, seeing all the characters together and just the fights that went down. You know, it had its very strong moments peppered between, and like the bit where Yang and Yang and Weiss are talking about Blake, and even like Yang fighting on the plane. So that was really good. But aside from that, it was just kind of, the rest of it was a bit mellow, which is one of the problems I have with season 5, is that it's kind of forgettable. In the sense that, like, I remember bits of it, but not the entire series. Because one thing that I think RWBY excels at is that even though it's not perfect at times and it's a bit awkward, and, you know, sometimes, like, the episodes are like, I remember, like, starting out some of the episodes with no more than, like, 5-10 minutes. RWBY's very memorable. Like, you remember, I remember season 1, I remember season 2, I remember season 3, I remember everything in season 4. I only remember bits of season 5, and I think that does kind of suck. I reckon I think the thing was too focused on world building and exposition this time around, which is cool. We learned about magic and stuff like that, but I think the other seasons did it better, where they implemented it in a way where it didn't feel as forced and it just came more naturally, or they gave it like separate side episodes. Like in season 3, you learned about the backstory, but they were like 2-minute things you didn't need to know, but they were there for you. And I think that was cool, whereas this one kind of brought it to the forefront a bit more heavily. And some of it was necessary, like learning about Ozpin and, you know, what happened to Raven and Crow. I think that was necessary, but other bits I was just like, you know, can we keep moving? Stuff isn't really happening. You know, it was going through an overall, still like season 4, very dark tone. And I think with it, you know, with that type of series, you can't get too excited. But I feel like one of the things about RWBY that's always made it exciting was the fast-paced action and the fact that, you know, it was always moving forward and quite fast-paced. But here it felt a bit like, and I think that's why I didn't think as good as 3 and 4, because it just like, it lacked the punch they did. It just lacks that punch. But when it did actually get there, it was really good. And speaking of really good, I really appreciate how the animation is now. Because, like, I would compliment RWBY so much for how ambitious it is to, not so much, like, the fight scenes are obviously very impressive, you know, that's great. I think they're some of the most stylized type fight scenes you can get, 2D or 3D. But it's the fact they try to, like, the way they style their characters in 3 dimension. I think 3D really does help, because With 3D, it's easier to have to control everything that's going on. For those who don't know, I have a degree in 3D animation, so there's a lot of RWBY I know from a technical aspect. Not trying to sound pretentious or anything, it's just I know some of the stuff. So there's a lot you can control within 3D compared to like 2D's. 2D has its benefits too because it's easier to set up, and I prefer 2D because it's more stylized. But 3D, there's a greater sense of control, and you can do a lot within the space and have like single shots and do a lot with characters doing it once. So I think RWBY does that really well. And in Season 5, you really noticed that because there was a lot more on screen, there were so many more characters, the particle effects got really good, like with Weiss's attacks. The fight scenes are still always great, but they felt smoother this time around and not as like difficult to keep up with. The lighting and stuff was really good, and some of the haze effects, like when Yang goes in to get the relic, you know. I think the animation's still great, but now the visuals just look better, like the effects and everything, because RWBY, like when it started out, which I don't have, you know, I didn't have a problem with because, you know, it's basically an independently created series and something like that. It was a bit janky, but I didn't think that was a problem because I think it just made up for it with really stylized, cool fights. And I think now RWBY has really reached the point where it just looks really damn good. Like everything looks so convincing, the way the characters move, their reactions and all that stuff. So I think RWBY has really stepped up its game in terms of animation in just regards to everything. Oh yeah, another highlight was the fight at Blake's house. I thought that was really cool. So yeah, that was me in general for RWBY Season 5. I very much enjoyed it, had some great highlights, but overall, not the most memorable series. Better than 1 and 2, it's kind of in the middle. Not as good as 3 and 4. So as for what's next for RWBY, oh, the ending was absolutely lovely. As for what's next, well, I hope Season 6, sorry, goes back to the more Season 4 style where RWBY, not the other characters, but RWBY and the gang were out looking for stuff. They were exploring the world, you know, still fighting on. I hope that Season 6 kind of does that, because now we've reached the point where the gang's back together, you know, the White Fang's disbanded, Cinder's dead, but they know who Salem is. So the bad guys have had, you know, taken a hefty hit, and the heroes, with the gang back together, they've recovered, and even like, you know, the Ozpin kid, can't remember his name, you know, is more involved in stuff, and John's unlocked his semblance, and Crow's now fighting with them. You know, it's more, the heroes now have a one-up, like a leg up, so I hope they go more out into the wilderness in more of type and having like more of an adventure and take the fight to them. Don't get me wrong, I still think it'll still be quite dark because I reckon that's RWBY's tone from now on. It's going to be kind of dark, and like it's going to be more epic and dangerous. Like I reckon the heroes will be like put up against some really tough challenges because Salem will be on their asses like nothing's business, and to get the rest of the relics they're going to want it first. And I reckon even then, like Adam and the other villains will try to have a really hefty counterattack. So I have no doubt that something bad's going to happen. I hope no one else dies, but something tells me someone might die. Like, I think if any of the heroes are going to die, Crow's going to, like, give himself to save RWBY or something like that. Maybe. Who knows? You know, I want to see what they're going to do with Raven. Or, you know, if Raven gave her life to save Yang, that would be, like, a very nice full circle type thing. But I hope Season 6 does kind of go back into the more energetic vibe that RWBY is known for, and really capitalize on that. You know, still make it dark, still have time to talk about everyone's problems, you know, because I reckon the first couple episodes will really have to be RWBY, Yang, Blake, and Weiss getting back together and just, you know, having some really soft, tender moments. But I think the series needs to push on. You know, we had time to mellow out with Season 5. You know, we've recovered. I think now, after the end of Season 3, I think we've recovered from all the shit that's happened, or most of it. I think it's now time to press on and really get back to the action. You know, I think it's time to explore more of the world as well, because we know about it, we know of it, but we haven't seen it. So I hope that's a thing. We just see more of RWBY's world, we push forward more, and I look forward to Season 6. So I love RWBY, I think it's a wonderful series. I really approve of, like, I really admire what they've done, and I hope it just keeps going and remains on top. You know, if they can reach that balance of being action-packed but also have enough time to be slow, tender, and caring towards the characters, I think, you know, we might be onto something that's just as good as, if not better than, Season 3 and 4. So anyway, that's my thoughts on RWBY. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, sorry if I stuttered a bit. The whole thing is unscripted. What do you think of Season 5? You know, what were your favorite bits? What did you like? What did you not like? Do you look forward to season 6? What do you hope to see? And just, you know, I really hope you enjoyed this. Thank you all very much again for being supporters of my Patreon. It really, really does mean so much to me to help me out with just other future projects and do other stuff and sustain myself, and I hope these videos make up for it along with the other things I do. I love you guys so much. But until then, I thank you all very much for watching. I will see you all next time.